Hello and welcome to the Close Up Culture podcast. I'm Anna Mayers and I'm joined by James Prestridge. Today we'll be talking about the second special Euphoria episode, which has just come out, called F Anyone Who's Not a Sea Blob. And this looks at Jules' side of the story as she uses the Christmas holidays to reflect on the year in this second special episode. I just said second special episode twice. It's the second special episode, everyone, if you didn't know already. James, before we get on to Euphoria, the second special episode, how are you?
I'm good. Last week we spoke about Better Call Saul and how I'd been watching the show and I was very underwhelmed by it. I was the midway point of season 2. I have now completed Better Call Saul, all 5 seasons. I can say I completely transformed my opinion. I've gone from thinking this was a boring, slow show to almost as good as Breaking Bad. I loved it. It really picked up speed. As I said, a reviewer had said, as soon as it gets closer to the Breaking Bad timeline, it picks up, and that was so true. The show nailed it, and I loved it so much. And I enjoyed it so much that I am now rewatching Breaking Bad for the first time in 7 years.
That is amazing. It's crazy to see how your thoughts have changed. And as well, it's often the first few series are really good of a show. And then the last few, it's like, oh, come on, get over. Like you're on the ninth series and you're doing the same thing. So it's weird that actually the first few series weren't that great. But then actually, as it's gotten on and you've got to get into more of the story, it's like, whoa, this is really good. That's really interesting.
But I'm noticing it with Breaking Bad as well. The first season is very contained, and a lot of stuff happens, but it's nowhere near as big and cinematic as the final few seasons. And I think that's the same with Better Call Saul. It just had to build, and as long as you've got the patience to stick with it, it really comes through. I marvel at Vince Gillian's world building. He has made just the most incredible universe with so many details that pay off in brilliant ways. And I've been thinking about this. You know me, I'm big on movies over television. But I think Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul by extension might be my favorite piece of visual art. I think I might enjoy it more than I enjoy any other film, which is saying a lot. I really love it.
That really is interesting. Is there also a movie about Jesse?
Yes, called
Okay.
Road to El Camino, it might even just be El Camino. And I
So,
didn't really like that very much.
okay, do you think that is kind of a completely different vibe to the shows?
I think my problem was, I'm going to rewatch that actually and give it a second opinion. My problem was I went into it expecting Breaking Bad and Walter White, and it wasn't that. It was just Jesse. Yeah, I feel like I just went in with the wrong expectations. So I'm looking forward to rewatching Breaking Bad and then going back to that film with more tempered expectations of not seeing too much of Walt and Jesse together, and I'll be able to enjoy it properly.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad that I think that's it, that I'm currently rewatching Game of Thrones and it's nice watching it again because you can kind of see foreshadowing and you know where the characters end up. But there's bits where you can that's it, you definitely appreciate the world building a lot more. So I'm really excited for you to rewatch the film and rewatch Breaking Bad, and just kind of rediscover the love for this series that you have. I'm really excited for you.
What you'll find with Game of Thrones, which I found with Dexter, is the ending, once you've experienced that disappointment once, is nowhere near bad the second time round.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like the ending of Dexter the second time round because I knew the what was coming and I was like, it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. So maybe that'd be the same with Game of Thrones. Your expectations have been lowered and you can maybe say, oh, okay, I understand what they're going for now.
Definitely. Well, fingers crossed. If I'm on here in a few weeks saying, damn, I'm so mad at the Game of Thrones ending, then we'll know that still hits as bad the second time. From some award-winning TV shows to another, let's talk about Euphoria and this second special episode.
Masterful segue that.
Thank you. So yeah, we obviously reviewed and saw the first one, which followed Rue, and I said that I liked it, but it wasn't my sort of vibe. So I was really intrigued by the Jules version, and I have to say that I did prefer this one. What are your initial thoughts?
I knew this was going to happen. I'd written down in my notes, I bet this is a reversal. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the first one. This second episode special was actually more like the Euphoria of season one, but I just felt like it lost me at a lot of points. Whereas the first episode, it was like I said, very simple play, just a conversation between two people, and because it was kind of rooted in them sitting in this diner together, I could follow the conversation, I could get into the conversation. This one, there was so much stylistic sleight of hands and drifting from subject to subject, fantasy to real. It lost me, and I didn't feel like I could hold on to anything throughout this. And I watched it twice. I watched it once with my full attention. I watched the second time, not paying as much attention. It still didn't get me. I was hoping second time round, maybe once I'd experienced it once, I'd be able to sit with it a bit more and it would resonate with me more second time round, but it didn't. One of the first questions I had for you, Anna, was what I just mentioned there. It is very all over the place. There's no sense of time where when these things are happening. How did you cope with that? 'Cause I know you're someone you like to have your clock on the bottom left hand corner to let you know what where we're at, basically.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing, but I did like the kind of flickers between the present of Jules being with the therapist and kind of the past when she was in the apartment or at home with her dad. And I liked how they had kind of certain bits in the script which would help us link into where it took place in the timeline. So obviously she was like, I've got my wings ready for Halloween, or I've just come back from the Halloween party. So I think it would be interesting to see the show again, but with these new kind of chapters and scenes in it, so we can kind of fully see what was happening at the time. So that helped a bit. But at the same time, I think I was still slightly confused. Obviously at the end of the first series, Jules goes off, and then Rue has this major dance number. And then, to be honest, I was a bit confused about them living in New York, and it was like, well, where does this fit in the timeline? Because if they didn't go off together, when did this happen? So I'm already confused going into the Rue one. So going into this Jules one with even more of that, I think I preferred it just because it had a lot of stuff going on. And I think not that I get bored easily, but I think because I watch and consume so much that I'm very like, right, when's the next thing? Come on, move on. Like
Hmm.
I've seen it. I'm over it already. So I think I preferred this one at the fact that it did keep changing. It presented us with the past, and we could see different visuals to keep us kind of interested and intrigued with what was happening. But definitely, I think that some of the flickers going into the past, I could understand and kind of make sense where they fitted in, but others, I was kind of a bit lost. But I was like, I'll just let it slide, like I did with the first one. Okay, so obviously at the start we see Jules in the therapist's office, and then for 2 minutes we see a close up of her eye, and in the reflection there's obviously images of kind of season one and things that have happened, a bit like she's watching a home videotape or something. And over this we have the song "Liability" by Lord, and I've just put in my notes "Liability" by Lord. Ah, because I freaking love Lord, freaking love this song. So when I heard this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is really lovely. Um, and to see this style again, Euphoria has its own thing, its own vibe that feels very new and fresh and different. And I feel that with the first one, we had that with kind of the neon purple and stuff. But at the same time, we didn't have the full thing. To me, it felt like this has been filmed in lockdown and this is what they could do with it. Whereas
Hmm.
this felt like an actual episode that could slot into series one. And I think that this song and See Me I, it really added to that. Did you like this intro, or do you feel it's kind of long and a bit not right?
I thought the intro was actually the best part of this whole special second episode. Not only do I like Lord's music, but lyrically, it accompanied the story really well. And just that final touch of her eye welling up with a tear and it obscuring the memories, I thought that was a really beautiful moment. And
Yeah.
a wonderful introduction, yeah, as you say, to a more stylistically bold episode than the first of these specials.
That's it. And I think talking about kind of the welling up of tears, I want to talk about Hunter Schafer, who plays Jules. Her performance in this was really beautiful, kind of seeing all these emotions and things. And Zendaya, who plays Rue, they both have this kind of special relationship, I think, both on and off screen. I've seen on Instagram when they've kind of posted about episodes being released, being like, I just want to thank my co-star, and then obviously the other person's name, because they've, I think, really held each other in this process. And even though it is on screen, it's written, it's not real, there is something personal about it to them. And I think that they brilliantly show these emotions and bring these characters to life. And it's really sad, kind of bittersweet to see them back on our screens, because obviously we love them and cherish them. And when it came out, everyone was like, Jules and Rue, lovers, BFFs, like we want to be them. But at the same time, watching the special episodes like this, it's like actually we don't want to be them, but we want them to get help. So it was really lovely that these episodes, even though they were quite sad and angry at times, that they showed that both of them were getting help, that they were speaking to people, that they were going to therapy, that they were understanding that they both have issues. And if they want to love each other, that they can. They just need to figure out how it's going to work out.
We have Jules talking about femininity, the ocean, Rue's perhaps dependency on her, and then obviously Jules's mother as well. Did any of these subjects particularly grip you, or which one kind of stood out to you the most?
I think for me, what stood out the most was her just talking about being a trans woman, and how she said, I can't remember the exact line, but it was like, I've had to build my own kind of soul and body and mind, that it hasn't just been handed to her on a plate. And I thought that was really interesting, because it shows like this that really start the topic of talking about stuff like people posting on OnlyFans, about the idea of catfishing, about all these things. And it's the kind of stuff that we need something like this to really start the conversation going. And I think to have a trans character played by a trans person, who is really in depth and in detail about how they're feeling and putting that into the show is really lovely. And one of my favorite kind of quotes was, I feel like I've framed my entire womanhood around men. And I think that's so interesting, because Jules has obviously been allowed to become the woman that she is in both real life and in the show. And it's so interesting to see her grow through the show, and see how men are taking control of her when actually she isn't interested in men, really. She obviously loves Tyler, who then turns out to be Nate, is it, or something? But I just think it's so interesting that these shows are giving characters the place to speak and talk, which gives us the place to speak and keep the conversation going, and then allows trans people to kind of be seen on screen and have their space and feel like they are being listened to. And I just thought that line was so interesting, because I was thinking of myself, and thinking, have I done grown up kind of framing my womanhood around men? And it's the sort of thing that, yeah, we naturally do, because um, thinking back into the past, women existed for men, and the fact that it has changed, but at the same time it hasn't. I just think it's brilliant that even though it's a lot going on and there is a lot being spoken about, everything is so important. And I really like that Jules was able to speak about all of it. I feel I'm talking a lot and I can't really get across how I feel about it. But I appreciated it, that it was a lot. So I think to some people it will be like, whoa, this is a lot. But I know that a lot of people watching and listening will appreciate what she's speaking about. I feel like this episode hit deeper, because obviously we don't know Zendaya's issues in real life, and I don't want to put her in a box and say her life is perfect. But as far as we are aware, she doesn't deal with issues with alcohol and drugs and things. Whereas Hunter, who plays Jules, is trans in real life, which is first of all amazing that a trans person is playing a trans character, because often we don't get that on screen. So I think it, for me, hit harder of, is she playing Jules or is she playing herself here? Is this kind of therapy for her? And I found that really quite refreshing and interesting to see. So even if in the second series, because Rue and Jules have been given such a big platform in these two special episodes, that the other characters may be given more in the second series, it's so nice that we still are able to have these important stories told. And I love that the trans character isn't just the random background character, or the person dealing with drug issues isn't just like, again, a random background character. These are the main characters, and these are the real people that we are and see in life. So I think I connected to this one more just because it was so and is so real. And again, we don't know Hunter's or Zendaya's issues and lives personally, but I think that, yeah, I think this was just a really beautiful episode because you could really see Hunter put everything into this. And even if no one else appreciates it, I hope she knows that I do.
I like Euphoria for the style, but I feel like this was almost too style heavy, and we didn't get into enough substance. I almost would have liked talking about how I found the trans topics to be the most interesting. I'd almost like us to just stayed on the therapist chair and just listen to more of that, rather than leaving that and going off into other stuff. Because, like I say, I was really like, it was opening my eyes to a lot of things and a lot of things I hadn't thought about. And then we kind of left it to do some cool visuals.
Yeah, whereas I'm kind of the complete opposite, because I was sat and had it been 5 minutes in like the therapist chair, and I'm sat there like, come on, give us something, give us. Yes, it's there. I've got it for like 5 seconds, and then I watched the whole episode, and it's like, damn, Anna, you've been fed well today. You've got the dream episode that you wanted. Past Anna predicted this. I predicted that I would prefer this episode, and I did. And I think that's it. Maybe they wanted two completely different episodes to show that even though these girls are very similar, they're also completely different. That Rue needs someone to sit her down and say, this is what you need to do, and you will get better. Whereas Jules just needs a space to be able to say how she feels about everything, and then she can get on with her life. But yeah, I'd love to talk more about the vibes, because, like I said, the first episode, I felt it was vibey with kind of the purple neon and the music, whereas this was obviously quite artistic in the way it was shot, specifically kind of the sex and intimate scenes. It was very, very kind of beautiful looking at cinematography. Everything was really thought about. So I'm guessing that even though you liked it, did you feel it was too much for what was happening?
I really liked all the stylistic stuff in season one of Euphoria. And in fact, I remember one of my critiques of the show was that the second half of the season, I felt like they didn't do enough of it. And I wanted more of it. Yeah, I just didn't feel like there was enough focus here. I was getting lost, honestly. Even watching it the second time round, I was getting a little bit lost. I think, like you said, these two episodes are going to appeal differently to different people. I really enjoyed the first episode, the subjects they touched on, the performances. The second episode, I felt like it was just a bit of a flooding of too many things, and maybe if they'd taken out the stuff about the sexting or something else, it would have had a bit more focus and I'd have been able to grip onto it a bit more, and the stylistic stuff wouldn't have bothered me. Whereas I can definitely see your opinion here, where you want that, like Euphoria, part of the appeal of it is that we're not standing still for very long. They're keeping your attention the whole time.
I think that we've said our points.
Yeah.
That your team Rue, I'm team Jules. We both really appreciate the episodes, but we just prefer the way that certain ones have been done, and I think that's completely fair. And again, probably one of the reasons why they've done it like that is to give different Euphoria fans different reasons to hold on for a second series, whether that is you like the vibes or you like the music or you like what they talk about and how they sit and actually get into topics that other TV shows and films don't even want to think about, let alone actually talk about. So yeah, do we want to wrap up and give kind of final thoughts on F Anyone Who's Not a Sea Blob, which is a weird title, but sure thing, go for it.
I I think Euphoria fans will enjoy the second one more, and it is more in keeping with the show, the tone of the show. Yeah, I feel like I will be in the minority of my thoughts on this. But that being said, although I've largely been critical, I did enjoy it. I was not bored at any point. I was just lost, and maybe that's just my fault.
No, I don't think that's your fault at all. I think that they're definitely on every single TV show and film. There needs to be a little clock and calendar in the corner saying, right, this is the time, this is the date, this is where we are now, so that everyone understands. Right, everyone got it? Cool, let's start the scene.
And
I'd
maybe
appreciate that.
and maybe in lockdown as well, I need to just pause it and just take a moment to think rather than they'll be talking about sexting, but I'm still thinking about the first conversation at the start of the episode. I think maybe the first episode appealed to me more because I was just like sitting on the stuff. I was more familiar with the subjects they were talking about, and I felt a bit more comfortable. Whereas this one threw me about a bit more, and I just didn't connect with it as much.
And I think as well, just thinking about it off the top of my head, they're talking about their entire lives and they're given 45 minutes. You can't talk about your entire life in
Yeah.
45 minutes. So hopefully season two will be able to give us some more answers. Um, and I'm excited and I'm sure that you are too. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens to these characters and the other ones next.
I mean, I think we could probably both agree here. These specials have been good, but I haven't been completely blown away by them. I feel like they're inferior to the first season.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said about the first one, to me it felt like we want to do a second series, but oh no, it's lockdown. What can we do? Let's just have
Hmm.
two people sat a meter away from each other. And I definitely felt that with the Jules and the therapist. Um, and again, we don't know when things were filmed and what the rules were and whatever. But to me, this felt like coronavirus didn't exist, whereas with the first one it did. But no, again, I don't want to obviously hit anyone down, but did we need these episodes? And I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the story continues in series two. Maybe we needed them just so when it starts, it'll be like, okay, that's why they're acting like this now. So it wasn't just a random pick up from anywhere. Well, that's it. I think we'll always have questions until we're given more. But actually, to keep some Euphoria fans happy as we are, we're each given an episode that we enjoy, and another one that we really love. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the story next.
Yep, I'm excited for season two. Hopefully, it won't be too long to wait for it.
I thought you meant too long then, as in like more than like five
I know.
episodes thing.
That's why I just had to add those couple of extra words there because, yeah, I mean, so many TV shows are 3 or 4 episodes too long. That was again one of my complaints to the first season of Euphoria. I pretty thought it was a little bit too long. Uh,
And
but
now
anyway,
you've
enough.
given us two extra. Like
Yeah,
just have some more here. There you go. You
I
wanted more?
I just felt like this in hindsight now. It just felt like a bit of an unnecessary bridge between the two seasons. But oh well, we've watched them both now.
Yeah.
Oops.
There we go. We can't take back the time. And you watched it twice as well, so
And anyone listening can't take back the time of listening to us jabber about these two special episodes. So thank you for those who have sunk about an hour into our reviews. Thank you for listening.
yeah, thank you very much. Sea blobs or not, we appreciate you for listening.
Hell yeah. Peace out, bye.
Bye.
Sorry, I ended that like I ended a telephone call.